Hello and welcome. You're watching Wellbeing here on AD4 TV Radio. I am Adirayo Senami. I like to say, when you live a healthy lifestyle, you can help others to do the same. On this episode of Wellbeing, I'm joined by Dr. Henry Uwandu, a consultant obstetrician and gynecologist. It's great to have you here on Wellbeing. Welcome to the show, Dr. Henry.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So, in Nigeria, cervical cancer is a big problem. In fact, according to statistics while preparing for this episode, cervical cancer is the second most common cancer in women, and it accounts for 21% of deaths among women here in Nigeria. Could you speak to that statistics? Is it accurate?
Yeah. Yes, it's very, very accurate. In cervical cancer globally, in fact, we have a global incidence of about 500,000 cases per year globally. And here in Nigeria, we have about 25,000 cases every year, you understand. And like you said, this cancer is the leading cause of cancer death from gynecological cancers. But when you talk about cancers generally in women in our environment, it is the second leading cause of cancer death. First is breast cancer, then followed by cancer of the cervix. So it's a big problem, especially in the developing country, of which Nigeria is one. This is unlike what is obtainable in the developed world, in the Western world, like UK and America, where the incidence of this cancer has been reduced to the barest minimum due to the availability of what they call universal screening modalities that allows the detection of this virus early enough and then appropriate intervention given to these women to prevent morbidity and mortality. But unlike here in this part of the world, what we do is opportunistic screening. When women present with symptoms or comfort, things that may not be associated with, for instance, unprovoked vaginal bleeding, okay? Or maybe they come for a different other problem, gynecological consultations, and then you offer them, and of course, some of them will agree and some of them will not. Then when you check them and you find out the cancer is there, then you know what to do. But most cases present here when the cancer itself has already set in and has spread. Most cases now come as late diseases.
All right. You know, you just answered my second question because I was going to do a follow-up. Since in your experience as an OBGYN,
yes.
I mean, definitely you fix a lot of women issues. So I was going to ask, how often do you get people voluntarily coming for a screening? You know, of course, cervical cancer is not new. It's not a new discovery here in Nigeria, but, you know, like you said, in other parts of the world, you know, they are advanced in the sense that they know what to do early enough. But in Nigeria, most women don't come. So I was going to ask you, do you get women who just voluntarily say, I've heard there's a type of cancer and I want to voluntarily get screened? Do you get that often?
Well, I will tell you the truth is that we don't get that often. Even though this is not a new disease per se, but the awareness in the society is very, very low. You will still be surprised that you find graduates who are not even aware of cervical cancer. And then those that are aware of it, because they do not know its importance and the role it plays in the life of women, they don't give it priority. You understand? They don't prioritize that as one of the essential aspects of their healthcare behavior. So you hardly see a woman walking in to come and tell you that she wants to come for cervical screening. Although very few ones that are especially exposed and enlightened who are aware of the consequences of this cancer in our society, you still see them coming. But I must tell you that the attendance is very, very low. You understand? Very, very low. We do have them, but they are very, very low. I have mentioned that because of the major problem is that low awareness and then poor health seeking behavior. And you have other challenges that are competing with their daily needs, such as illiteracy, poverty, and women's subjugation, and so many other things that makes the awareness of this particular disease not common as it should be as compared to the developed.
And that's one of the things programs like this are here for, awareness, to raise awareness. You know, we agree, you and I, and a lot of people in the health world in Nigeria, that every health issue in Nigeria is underreported. There's little awareness, no matter how much public health officials do. Yeah. It just feels like the sensitization, it's not enough. And so you and I agree there is a problem. What is this problem? What is cervical cancer? For someone who's just tuned in to listen at, okay, there's a certain type of cancer I've never heard before, and these people are asking me to go and get screened for it. What is it, and at what age is the best age to, to get screened for cervical cancer?
Okay. Well, the cervix is a part of the womb. In fact, the cervix, we describe it as the beginning part of the womb if you come from the vaginal aspect. Okay? It is the part of the cervix, it is the part of the womb that you can see when you examine a woman through the vagina. So it is, in a layman's language, I would say that it is the entrance point or the door to the womb.
Yes.
So it is accessible, it can be seen, you understand, when you do a vaginal speculum to examine the cervix or examine that part of the woman's reproductive organ.
Yes.
So cancers that occur around that region, this cervix, which is the door, the inlet to the womb,
yes,
is actually referred to as cancer of the cervix.
Okay.
So any cancer that occur around that region is regarded as cancer of the cervix. Now, like I said, this cancer is very common in our environment,
yeah,
because there are various, up to today, of course, as just like any other cancer, the cause, the reason why it occurs, nobody knows.
Yes.
But there are so many risk factors which are very common in our environment.
Okay.
In fact, there are quite a lot. Being a black woman, is already a risk factor.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Then other things such as high parity, yes, high parity, early age of sexual intercourse,
yeah,
early age at first birth, okay, multiple sexual partners,
wow,
yes, having a partner that has multiple sexual partner as well, okay, cigarette smoking, and then infection with HPV virus, human papilloma virus infection, yeah, are all risk factors. So when you look at our environment, high parity, we have a lot of children here.
Yes.
Yes.
We have the youngest population in the world.
Exactly. Then early marriage is a problem here already. And once you have early marriage, of course, definitely the early onset of child, because the transformation that occurs that leads to malignant transformation in this cervical epithelium usually occur at these vulnerable periods, the teenage age group, the first time in pregnancy,
yes, and
so many other times. So all the risk factors are here. So because of that, this cancer is a problem in our society. But of course, it occurs in every other place of the world. But because over there, they have a structured program, a structured way of assessing. Now that they know that this is everywhere, yeah, they have a structured way of trying to identify this virus or this particular cancer at its earliest stage. Yeah. Because it's important to mention that cervical cancer actually begins with a pre-cancer stage. Yes, or what we call a pre-malignant stage. So this makes it, that's why they say cervical cancer is not a death sentence. Yes. Okay, so if it's caught early enough, yes, it can be okay. Yes, yes, it has a pre-invasive stage or pre-cancer stage, otherwise known as cervical intraepithelial neoplasia. And this pre-cancer stage can last up to 10 years. Yes. So imagine if you find it in a 19-year-old. Yes. She has 10 years. 10 years. It can last up to 10 years, yes. If you can actually take advantage of any of the screening modalities. Because your second question is that at what age can you get screened? Yes. Or at what age can you start screening? Yes. Because this cancer begins from a pre-malignant lesion. Yes. And this pre-malignant lesion can last up to 10 years before it undergoes malignant transformation and become an invasive cancer. Yes. If any of the screening modalities is applied within this 10-year window, this disease can be detected at a very early stage, so that with evidence-proven interventions, this cancer can be taken care of without even the need of extensive surgery. And there's no need that it to come back, because they say remission, or what do they say about cancers that come back again? So, but with cervical cancer, once you discover and you treat it early on, that's it. You can't. Yes, the definitive treatment is actually removing the womb. But of course, you know that when you discover it in a woman that is within reproductive age group, especially for those that have not either started having children or that have not completed their family size, yes, we have a structured program that allows them have repeated screening modalities, or repeated screening opportunities that will help them to ensure that they do not develop this virus until they reach the age where the screening is no longer applicable. Okay. Yes, because like I said, there are a lot of screening modalities that have been used. We have what we call the pap smear. Yes. Okay, the perpendicular smear. Yes. We have a visual inspection using acetic acid. Yes. We have a visual inspection using Lugos iodine. Yes. We have what they call speculoscopy.
So
Yeah.
all these approaches, are they exhaustive in their own, or do you have to do one after the other? Or
No,
one, you could use either one?
Anyone. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you have the HPV DNA screening.
Yes.
You understand. Then we have PapNet, we have AutoPAT, so many other screening modalities that have been, programmed to detect this pre-invasive stage of the virus.
Okay.
Yes. If any of them is actually embarked on within this period, this thing can be picked. Okay. So this is what the developed countries have taken advantage of. Now they know that this window exists. Yes. Now there's a structured program that allow women to go and obtain this screening at every given opportunity. Any woman that is eligible for the screening must receive the screening, because it is, number one, it is being paid by the government.
Yes.
And then the awareness is there, and women also have the consciousness to seek these services. So one can start screening once you are up to the age of 20 and above.
Okay.
Okay, 20 and above. And then it is expected that you should have at least one screening every 3 years until the age of 29.
Okay.
Yes, one screening every 3 years. You see, you have about 3 screening. Assuming you developed the pre-invasive stage today.
Yes.
You have opportunity of 3 solid screening, which is the next 9 years to detect this before it actually becomes an invasive cancer.
So it's not an annual. If I screen this year,
no,
I don't have to screen.
No,
next
till next 3 years.
So it's not. Oh my goodness.
Until 30 years. Then when you get to 30 years, you are now allowed to screen for every 5 years, provided you add to the pap smear what they call HPV DNA testing. HPV DNA test. Why? Because the incidence of cervical cancer peaks at 45 years. Usually from 45, it has a dual peak incidence to 45 years and 60 years. So if it peaks at 45 years, it means that when you are 30 years, you're very close to the peak incidence.
Yes.
So just doing pap smear alone may not be enough. So people advise that if you can do pap smear and also screen for HPV DNA. HPV, what is HPV? Human papilloma virus.
Yes.
Looking for the DNA is a viral infection. So
by you find if it's in the body.
Yes, if it is not there, you should not bother screening yourself for another 5 years.
Okay.
So it's like empowering or fortifying the pap smear that you did from 20 years to 30 years. And you do that every 5 years until 65 years. Provided, once you get 65 years, you stop. Provided you have at least in the last 3 screening, have had negative samples, you stop.
Okay,
yes.
There's a lot of questions going through my mind,
yes.
But this is the perfect place to take a break now. You're watching Wellbeing here on AD4 TV Radio. We'll be right back. To steal one's thunder means to take credit for something someone else did. So if, for instance, you're on a project team and everyone knows you did more than 70% of the work, only for some other team member to show up and take credit for the whole work, that person has stolen your thunder. Welcome back. You're still watching Wellbeing here on AD4 TV Radio. And today we're talking about cervical cancer. It's a cancer that affects the cervix, as my guest has been enlightening us. Thank you so much, Dr. Henry Nwandu, for doing this. You were on the roll. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you earlier on. But 2 things came to mind. First of all, you mentioned that it peaks between the age of 45 and towards the age of 60. And so what I recall was the former Minister of Information, Dora Akunyili. Most people don't know that it was cervical cancer that she actually had. Most people knew she had a cancer. But they didn't know that, it was cervical cancer that, led to her death. And so I imagine, of course, she was a woman in her 50s, and given all this information, imagine if we had, the right, because one of the problems in Nigeria is having this screening, the right treatment, the right equipment, the right knowledge, knowing what to do. So I imagine if she had all this information at that time, because I think at some point she had caught it, they had discovered it, but there was nothing to do. They couldn't salvage the situation. She had to travel out of the country, but it was too late. But that wasn't the only thing that was going through my mind earlier on. You said from the age of 19, we can start screening.
From 20.
From 20.
Once you're up to 20
That's
years.
for young girls.
Yes.
This is young adults now.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'll call them. Not those. And because some women at the age of 20, they've already even say having children.
They are also sexually active.
They are also sexually active at the age of 20.
Yes.
I mean, they are independent and
Yes.
And in the Western world, apparently there's something they give them. They didn't even mention screening, you know, while I was preparing for this episode. There's screening, but there was also a solution. There was some other solution for 9-year-olds to 15-year-olds.
Yes.
Giving them something called a HPV vaccine.
Exactly.
And so you've been mentioning HPV vaccine, and then you go on to 19. So I want to, is it something that can be adopted here in Nigeria as well? Can we give our young girls from the age of 9 this HPV vaccine?
Yes.
Is it something the federal government can endorse?
Yes.
And then, because if you say cervical cancer falls under the category of, for instance, tuberculosis, where they give free treatment, which is what they do abroad for cervical cancers.
Yes.
You know, is it something that, you know, we can make, is it an information that is available out there here in Nigeria?
Okay.
That's a lot. Sorry.
Yes, no problem. I want to start it from the beginning, okay?
Yes.
First of all, I want to mention that there are vaccines that are available for this.
Yes.
Okay? Currently, we have the Cervical, we have the Gardasil. We have the Gardasil 4, we have the Gardasil 9. These are proven vaccines that have been shown to prevent the acquisition of this virus.
Okay.
Now, these vaccines are better given to women that are not sexually, because the chances of a woman acquiring this disease, HPV infection, generally in life is almost 80 to 90% in their normal reproductive life, because the virus is almost everywhere. Okay? However, the rate at which it is cleared too is almost very high. More than 70 to 80% of people that acquire this virus, we clear it. Yeah. But you don't know those that will have persistent infection. And these are the people that are at risk. And we have the various oncogenic serotypes. Particularly for cervical cancer is serotype 16 and 18.
What does this mean?
Yes,
Break it down.
yes. We have different strains of HPV. Okay. We have more than, in fact, for now, I think it's more than about 100 strains of HPV virus that can cause different type of diseases, including cancers, genital warts in an adult human being, both male and female. But for cervical cancer, serotype 16 and 18 are actually linked to invasive cancers of the cervix.
Which is why you do an HPV DNA.
Yes, for screening. Exactly.
Okay, now
exactly.
I get
Yes.
it.
So the Cervical actually prevents these two oncogenic strains, the powerful oncogenic strain, which is serotype 16 and 18. Okay. Whereas the Gardasil protects against both serotype 16 and 18, 6 and 11 that causes genital warts, which is not a cancer. And other serotypes such as 31, 33, we have 45, we have 52, 58 and all that. That is why we say Gardasil 9, about 9 serotypes. Gardasil 4 serotypes, which is 16, 18, 11 and 6. Okay? While Cervical is just 2. Yeah. So when you receive this vaccine, when you are not sexually exposed, because the chances of acquiring this is high. So that's why we target women before they begin to have sex. Yeah. So like in the developed countries, they target children at the age of 9, 11, between 9 and 13 years. 9 and 13 years, yes. Just at the time they are about to leave primary school. 9 years, so they start giving them this vaccine, and it involves about 3 shots. Okay. Once you get them, you can be sure that you are protected from the virus.
I think that's exactly what I was going to say, that it's in someone who is already sexually active. Yes. A vaccine is not 100%, what's that word now, effective. Unlike in a young child who is not sexually active or is not predisposed to, I don't know the right frame to use here, but the picture is that. So
once you're sexually active, can you still get protection?
Yes.
Yes. Or what amount of protection can you get from this vaccine? Okay. First of all, before I answer this question, a concluding part of the question, is it doable in this particular place? Because over there now is a routine practice. Yes. It is doable.
In Nigeria?
Yes, it is doable. If government can come into this, you understand, because the cost of producing this vaccine is quite enormous. Yes. So the cost is much if you leave it for the general public to afford. Do you understand? Affordability becomes a challenge. So if government can come in, just like in developed countries, subsidize this, increase the awareness, and make it, one of the things you give to children, just like you go to schools and give them polio vaccine and all that. Yes. I'm telling you, everybody, but because it's given to both boys and girls. Yes. Because men too are at risk of other cancers, penile cancers, perianal cancers that are also caused by the same HPV virus. Yes. So both men and female from the age of 9 to 13 years is can receive the vaccine, and it is doable if government commitment is there. Okay. Then back to if you're sexually active, can you actually get protection? Yes, you can, because, like I said, there are about over 100 serotypes of human papilloma virus. Nobody knows the particular strain that you have acquired. And the chances that you may, especially, okay, they also have to mention that the older you are, the less likely you are, because after the age of 26, people really don't encourage the use of the vaccine. Although in the developed world, they give this vaccine even up to 40 years. Yes, because there are still other serotypes that you may not have, that you may gain protection from.
Okay.
Yes. Cross protection from, yes, that's why they use it. But after 26 years, most people do not encourage the use of the vaccine. So yes, anybody that is within reproductive age group between the age of 12 and the age of 26 years, yes, is eligible to get the vaccine, even if you're sexually active. Because the chances that you may not get these oncogenic serotypes, these particular ones that are responsible for cervical cancer, even if you do get them, there are other serotypes too I mentioned that it gives protection, which you may not have. So protection from all those other viruses and the diseases they cause is also one of the benefits you derive from getting the vaccine. Yeah, in as much as we say that this cancer is a very big problem in our environment, but I have already said that it's just like every other infectious disease, such as gonorrhea, syphilis and all that, you can actually prevent this disease. Yes, you can prevent it. Probably the first prevention is for you to understand that this disease exists and that there are things you can do to actually protect yourself. Starting from primary prevention, we talk about the vaccination I mentioned. The vaccinations are in hospitals. They are in public hospitals, women specialist hospitals, even government hospitals. So go ahead, go out there, ask questions, go to hospitals, tell them you want to get this vaccine, especially for parents. Try to ensure that your children are immunized against this virus. I mentioned that the best time to catch them is between 9 years to 13 years. That time that they are not yet sexually active. Because if they can get this cancer problem is no longer a problem to them. Then for the adults who are beyond this age, even if you get the vaccine, there is also room for what they call secondary prevention. That involves screening. We have a lot of screening modalities, especially working class women, mothers and all that. You walk into the hospital, tell them that you want to screen for cancer of the cervix. The screening is relatively cheap. Pap smear is not that expensive. Do you understand? Go in there, they offer you this pap smear, and this pap smear can help you to detect both the pre-malignant lesions and the real frank cancer itself. So that if it is picked early, something can be done to avert the morbidity and mortality associated with the disease.
I should have done this at the beginning of the show because you're wondering, out of the blues, why are we having a conversation on cervical cancer when COVID-19 is out there rearing and, what's that word now, taking more lives? But I think that's not accurate. Most people think most people will die from COVID-19 than other illnesses.
Yes.
But I think from statistics, it shows that many people die from malaria, they die from cancer.
Yeah,
of course, these are people who already have this underlying health conditions anyway. But do you think COVID-19 will stop more people from going out to get checked?
Yes, of course. The coronavirus has changed our lives in so many ways. You understand, our social life, mental life, and health-seeking behavior. Okay, because with the ongoing lockdown and social isolation, physical distancing, and other restrictive measures that are in place to prevent the transmission of this, of course, you should expect less people to come out to the hospital for a disease that they may not even be convinced that it exists. They understand how much more the importance that it plays in the life of women in our environment. So definitely the chances of them coming out for these services or volunteering to come for this service amidst the raging pandemic will definitely be very, very low. So this is where an area again where sensitization needs to be, intensified upon. And letting women understand that despite the fact that this disease has come, it's here. But then it doesn't take away the other diseases that are already threatening our life and taking lives here on a daily basis. You understand? Life should continue. People should still reach out for the health services that are aimed at preventing these infections or at least detecting them early in order to reduce the attendant morbidity and mortality associated with it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Henry. Thank you so much. And so that's a wrap on this episode of Wellbeing here on 84 TV Radio. You've heard it all from our guest on the show today, Dr. Henry Nwando. He is a consultant gynecologist and obstetrician. How do you know you're ill if you don't get checked? How do you know you're ill if you don't go to the hospital? I know there's a raging virus out there, but still take care of your health. It's important. We need you here. My name is Adira Yosenami. Thank you for watching Wellbeing. See you next time.